So in our next example, what we're going to do is load in our data during the node load process and then display it in a particular way when the node is viewed. Go ahead and jump to your module folder, and we're going to open up step 5, which is called modifying node output. Copy the entire code and paste it into your stuff.module file, overwriting everything that's there already. Okay. In this file, we've added several new functions. Let's go ahead and take a look. Our last example ended at stuff node delete, so everything from here is new code. We've added 4 functions. It begins with stuff node load, and this is an implementation of hook node load. Through this, we can adjust the contents of the node object whenever it gets loaded through the node load or node load multiple functions. So our goal here is to add our custom data that we're storing in our secondary table, in our stuff backup table, every time node load or node load multiple is called. So notice that the implementation of hook node load takes 2 parameters. The first is nodes, which is an array of node objects, and then types is an array of the types of nodes that this includes. So this is if your module only acts on particular types of nodes, then you can check to see if that particular type is in the types array, and if not, you can return early in this function and not have to go through the entire processing. We're running a database query that will grab all of the node IDs and pull it into a select statement that will select any items from our stuff backup table that match those node IDs. So this is more efficient than looping through the node objects and appending the new data to each object independently. This will allow us to do it as one single query. So we're selecting the node ID and user ID from stuff backup, where the node ID is in, and then we're using a placeholder. And in this placeholder, we're passing it an array, and we're using the function array keys to grab the key from each one of these nodes and pull it into a single array. And then the database API will take care of creating a statement around this array. But then we're going to loop through the result set, and on each row, we're going to assign the value stuff backup user, the value from the row, the username value from the row. And we're grabbing the row NID, and we're setting the nodes variable here to stuff backup user on each item. Okay, so this will add our data into the node object. Let's go ahead and save this and jump back to our browser. And we're going to edit this node here. This is node 50. And now when we scroll down and we look at our backup user input, we see that admin is pre-filled. This is because we're now adjusting the node object whenever this form is created. Okay, now let's jump back to our code. The second thing we're going to do is create a way to visualize this new data that we're adding to the node. So whenever the node is rendered in a teaser view or a full view, we'll go ahead and add some additional HTML at the bottom that specifies which backup user the current node uses. So we're going to implement a hook called hook node view, and this is it here, stuff node view. You can find more information about this hook here, and every previous hook we've gone over also has information about that hook, a link to it in the api.drupal.org site. And this takes 3 parameters. The first is the node, which is the node object. The second is view mode. By default, Drupal has a full mode, which is the full node display, and a teaser mode. And modules can define additional view modes as well. And then the language code, so we can act on different languages and display it differently based on this code. Okay, the first thing we're doing is checking to make sure that the stuff backup user item in the node isn't blank, because if it is blank, we don't want to display the heading for this. And then what we're doing is adding an item to the render array for the node, and that's going to be found in the node content variable. And we're just adding a new item into that array, and we're setting a username property to node stuff backup user, and then we're setting the theme property, which is the theme function that will get called for this item in the render array, to stuff backup user. Now we talk about the theme layer and how to interact with the theme layer through a module in other videos, but let me just summarize here and say that when we define a theme function here, either that theme function needs to exist or we need to define it in our module. If we're going to define it in our module, we need both a theme function and we need to implement another hook called hook theme, which will allow us to register our theme functions with a theme registry. So our first step is to register this function with our hook theme, because this is going to be a custom function. Hook theme is very simple. It just returns an array of the function call and then an array of any variables that get passed to it. This one only takes a single parameter, which is the variables variable, and inside of that there's only one item, the username. Okay. Our next step is to actually define the theme function, and we do so by taking this name here that we see here in this theme definition and this addition in hook theme, and we add theme underscore as a prefix to it. And then we're passing it variables as an array. Now again, this variables will only have one item, the username item, in it. And we're just returning a heading that says backup user and then a paragraph with the name of the user in it. So something very simple. Let's go ahead and save this and jump back to our browser. And we want to make sure to clear the cache to make sure that our theme registry gets rebuilt. And now when we view our nodes, this is again on the stuff path, we see at the bottom of the node, we have our heading backup user and the name of the backup user. And then for nodes that don't have one set for it, there's nothing here at the bottom. I've mentioned a couple of times throughout this video that modules can define their own view modes. The idea of a view mode is that nodes aren't always going to display in the same way on every page. There are several ways to adjust the output of a node, but if we use a view mode, that style can then be reused in other contexts as well where that view mode makes sense. So instead of overriding a theme or adjusting the content of an existing view mode based on other criteria, you can define your own view mode, and then other modules or your module can reuse that view mode later on.